Um,
Um,
no, I'm just getting my mind ready, getting into a recording state of mind, thinking about what I was going to say. Yep, I'm ready.
okay. Does sound all right?
Yeah. Do I finally sound good?
Yeah, yeah, you sound good.
Okay, good.
All right, let's go. Counting down in three, two, one.
What is up? This is the 6 month behind podcast for the week of 2/27/17, where we discuss all the comics that came out this week in the Marvel Unlimited app. I'm Pat,
And I am Sean.
and we are the Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin of the Marvel Unlimited world. He is the cerebral assassin who has all of his notes carefully prepared and everything thought out. And I'm just a madman who just shows up and rants and raves like a lunatic.
That's a good assessment of what this podcast kind of is.
Yes. And if you don't believe that, in an hour, check back with us.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I plan my notes out,
Yeah.
and you just kind of
Yeah.
show up and just scream about the X-Men or whatever it is, or the
I'm going to
Inhumans.
scream about several things tonight, or the Inhumans, or Drax, or I got several things I'm going to scream about before this night's done.
Yeah, man. Well, I'd ask how you been, but you know, I get the idea that that's not the best. You're not in the best mood this evening.
Well, I'm actually in a fairly decent mood from a mood point of view. Other than I have another migraine, and my wife just took my daughter to the hospital, and my wife had 2 teeth pulled, and the comics this week suck. Okay, and all that's true. All that you can testify. All that is true. Other than that, hey, I feel great.
Okay, then. I don't think all the comic books suck. There was some good stuff.
I'm going down the list.
New Avengers
Captain
was
America.
good.
New Avengers was good.
Yeah.
New Avengers was good. Yes, it was.
Nighthawk was good. Moon Girl and Devil
Dude,
Dinosaur was good.
Oh my God, no, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
Nighthawk's just, we just take the Punisher and throw him in a Nighthawk costume. Okay, that's all that is.
Kind of, but that doesn't make it bad.
When I'm looking at Squirrel Girl and thinking maybe that's the best book of the week, okay, it's a bad week, man.
If you say so. Well, if you want to get in touch with us, you can go ahead and email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. And you can tell us what you think of the books this week. You can also visit our website at
www.6monthsbehind.com. Hey, I was looking at the website today, and
yeah,
I was going to add something because I was going to. I found a new website, and I will discuss it later. And I was going to throw it up there, and I thought I already had a page where we had all of our favorite websites listed. Den of Geek, Screen Rant, all these websites that discuss comics, and I didn't. And I would have bet my last dollar I had one up there. So I threw it up there today, and I started just listing our favorite websites. Screen Rant, which always does those lists, and has some good, always has some good websites or stories about comic books. Den of Geek, CBR, IGN.
Major spoilers.
I just started throwing them up there, and as they come to us, I'll start putting more of it. I got to put Comic Girl 19 up there, her YouTube site.
Oh yeah, she's finally back on YouTube. Finally.
Yeah, I think she's been there, man.
Nah, she hasn't done anything in about 8 months.
Man, no. She's been putting stuff up because it shows up in my feed every week, every day.
She has recently, but she hadn't done anything she didn't do anything for about 3 months. She was working on another show.
I disagree.
Okay. I follow her on social media, so you can go verify that. but we do discuss spoilers in the books. So if you haven't read anything, which you should have by now, it's been 7 days. Just know that we are going to discuss the plot lines of the book.
You were right about Auburn softball last week. I think you're wrong about Comic Girl 19 this week.
Okay, we'll find out.
Okay.
Starting off with our only Civil War book that we had this week, Captain Marvel #8. How did you feel about this book? I guess you thought it sucked based on what you said earlier.
No. I thought this one was pretty good. Okay. By the way, rather than good and great, I'm going to come up with like a thumb rating or finger rating or something. This is like 3 out of 5.
Yeah, 3 out of 5 middle fingers to the man or whatever.
Yes.
However you're feeling.
Yeah, it was like it was pretty good. Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 out of it was probably 3.
Yeah, I might agree with you there. So we open with a montage of Carol and various heroes saving the world every day of the week. You know, she's just by herself one day, she's with the Ultimates one day, she's with Alpha Flight the next. It's just her saving the world as she does. Then we have a meeting with the Alpha Flight board of directors. There's some disagreement as to why the Ultimates are taking on situations on the ground rather than dealing with the cosmic threats, which was the original intent of the team. Carol set up this rapid response room for handling smaller situations that Ulysses is able to predict with some advanced warning. There's some concern about, how quickly all these things come, all these visions come, and how much time there is to respond to it, and if things are being handled properly. So she sets up this whole response division so that for visions that Ulysses has and there's a little time frame available, they can coordinate with other governments and other militaries of other governments and the proper authorities to do everything correctly. It all seems pretty above board, but Black Panther still has some concerns over exactly how the visions work. Carol has a meeting with Clint Barton. And it turns out Carol's having some of her own doubts about what she's doing, but that doesn't mean she's going to back down from it. The Ultimates get a call about the resurgence of who is this bad guy? Some D-list bad guy.
I don't know. Don't care.
Yeah, some random person they decided they could beat up on. So they go to his house and take him out. Carol might really be trying to do the right thing here with this whole preventative justice thing, but honestly, as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
I don't,
I think it's, and we discussed this last week, whoever's drawing this or writing this book kind of veers her in different directions. And in this issue, she was kind of steered toward a direction of having good intentions and trying to help this guy, trying to keep him out of jail. I think T'Challa paid his parole and got him out of jail, or paid his bail, I should say, got him out of jail. I don't know, man. I don't know about Carol Danvers.
Yeah, I think she has the right intentions, but I definitely think she's going about it all the wrong way.
Yeah.
Either way, the book wasn't half bad.
No, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't great.
It was what it is.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That's the only Civil War book we had. No Spider-Man books this week.
We get like 3 or 4 Spider-Man books in 1 week, and then we don't get any for several weeks. You'd think they would spread those out.
Yeah, you would think, but whatever. I kind of like having weeks where there's a bunch of Spider-Man books, though.
Yeah, I guess so. I prefer seeing it spread out, but okay.
I mean, I enjoy what they're doing with all the Spider-Man stuff, so getting a bunch of it at once is kind of nice.
Yeah.
I can get more of the story. But
Right.
anyway, that brings us to X-Men with X-Men 92 number 6.
Okay. Speaking of books that are horrible this week, that would be X-Men 92 number 6. And it's not that it's bad. It's just, here's the thing. The X-Men are playing bodyguards to is it Lila Cheney concert, and the Flaming Lips, by the way. A Lila Cheney Flaming Lips concert. Okay. So, and then some bad guy shows up and another bad guy shows up and they're all fighting bad guys at a Lila Cheney concert, whatever. You know, it's the X-Men in the 90s at a Lila Cheney concert. If you want to see the X-Men in the 90s, here's what you do. This week, Wolverine 75 came out. It was in the dump. Okay. If you look somewhere around there, you'll see Wolverine 75. Now,
there are a bunch of good X-Men books in there.
In my opinion, there are 3 classic Magneto stories.
Mm-hmm.
One is in the early Uncanny 100 teens. It's like 111 through like 115, where Magneto just stomps the new X-Men.
Yeah.
It's not like they rally at the end and defeat him. They barely get out alive. Just stomps them, rides off in victory. Okay. It's not even close. Then there's the classic issue 150, where he stomps the X-Men, sinks the nuclear sub, kills a bunch of Russians. To this day, everyone is still mad at him about killing the Russians and taking the nuclear missiles. Okay. He's to this day, everyone's still mad at him because he literally sunk a Russian submarine, and, you know, he's still wanted for war crimes for it. That's Uncanny number 150. And then there's this series, which is called Fatal Attractions. Now, it runs through X Factor 92. All these are the original series. X Factor 92, X Force 25. Both of those issues, of course, aren't in Marvel Unlimited because it's a wonderful app. Uncanny X-Men 304, which is where this really gets good. That is an app. X-Men 25 and Wolverine 75.
Yeah.
Now, what's great about these 3? Now, if you really want to read a great X-Men 90s comic, don't read 92 number 6 here. Don't read that. Read these 3 books. Okay. Again, that's Uncanny 304, X-Men 25, Wolverine 75. Because what happened is they just said that the editors at Marvel said, what would happen if we just took the X-Men and Magneto, and they just said, you know what? Let's just forget it and just take Magneto at the height of his power and Charles Xavier at the height of his power and the X-Men at the height, and just turn them all loose. And they all just really tried to kill each other. And Wolverine tried to just slashes Magneto's chest over. Charles Xavier really tries to rip Magneto's brain apart. And as he's dying, Magneto snatches all the adamantium out of Wolverine's body. Okay? It literally just pulls all the metal out of his body. This is cool. Okay,
I mean, that was a big deal for Wolverine.
It was a huge deal, and it's not something that like went away for a couple of issues. Now, again, the Unlimited app being what it is, I looked today and there's nothing. 76, 77, 78 aren't there. This went on for years with Wolverine not having the metal in his body, his healing factor being screwed up. It was a huge storyline that went on for years, and unfortunately, the books aren't there in the Unlimited app. But this is a great storyline. I'm telling you, those are 3 great reads. And if you want to read something about X-Men in the 90s, don't read 92 number 6. Read those 3 books because they're classic reads.
Yeah, that's really good classic 90s X-Men. And it began Wolverine's like feral stage, where after he gets all the adamantium ripped out of his body, he just basically becomes a beast. He doesn't talk like properly, and he's always hunched over, and his hair's real long, and he's just kind of crazy.
He basically just loses his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I went
He
back.
becomes Wolverine in the mindset.
Yeah, because I went back and just thought, are these books as good as I remember them being before I wanted to recommend them tonight? And I kind of glanced at them today at work. It was really cool because I was actually looking at them on my 24-inch monitor. So I had Adam Kubert's and who was the other one? And John Romita Jr. before he forgot how to draw. So I had John Romita and Adam Kubert's art pulled up on my 24-inch monitor, looking at these pages, and it was written by Fabian Nicieza and Larry Hama. Dude, this is beautiful stuff, man. This is great. It's really good.
Yeah, it was definitely height of 90s comics. Probably some of the best comics being produced during that time.
Yeah, it was
not just from Marvel, but from everybody.
And how they took so long to get Wolverine 75 on the app is just criminal. It's dude, that's something that should have been there years ago.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Extraordinary X-Men number 13. I actually enjoyed this book.
You've been kind of down on the Extraordinary X-Men, I think.
No, Extraordinary X-Men has been the one book I've enjoyed because that was the one we were playing around in the future the last few issues.
Oh, that's Uncanny you've been down on.
Yeah, Uncanny I haven't loved.
Okay, all right.
But we're getting a new story here, kind of. We're moving on anyway. Everybody's back from the future, mostly. And we open with Ilana's she's in limbo searching for Sapna. Now, if you remember who Sapna is, she's this little girl that Ilana's kind of taken under her wing. And it turns out that in the future, she's going to become like some supervillain. Meanwhile, back at the X Mansion, the X-Men are holding Future Apocalypse prisoner, which is really weird to see because he's like all shriveled and emaciated, and they're just holding him there. It's a little creepy.
It's a little bizarre, yes.
Yeah. And they're still searching for Colossus, who is still he got stuck in the future, right? He was one of
I really don't understand if it's current time that they're looking for him in, or it's the future. But it's who is it? Nightcrawler and
Nightcrawler and Iceman are looking around,
yes.
and
I don't understand if they're time jumping, if they're looking for him in the future, in the present. I don't really understand.
Well, they find some members of Clan Akaba, interrogate them, and they don't really know anything. Also, since when is Nightcrawler back on Storm's X-Men team?
He's been there. He's there. Yeah.
No, he's with if you read Uncanny, he's with Magneto's team.
Yeah, he hasn't abandoned Storm's team yet in this issue.
Yeah, the only thing I can think is that this is taking place a little bit before Uncanny X-Men.
So it's taking place before Civil War.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's taking place before Uncanny X-Men, yes.
Yeah. So Storm and Illyana go through one of Sapna's portals that she can open. And there's a sequence where they're jumping through a bunch of different dimensions and worlds. And there's one there that I'm almost 100% certain is Kashyyyk, the Wookiee homeworld.
The Wookiee homeworld.
No, I'm serious. If you look at it, if you look at it, that's what it looks like. And you got to consider Marvel and Star Wars are under the same umbrella now. So theoretically, you could have, Star Wars happening in an alternate universe somewhere that they could access.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Anyway, they jump around for a while, and once they find the realm they're looking for, they run into some trouble. They run into a bunch of, I guess, heroes from whatever world they're on, and get beat up. Meanwhile, back at the X Mansion in proper time, Forge is trying to fix Cerebra, and he and Logan have an argument.
He's in a ticked off mood too.
Logan or Forge?
Forge.
Well, as he lays out, he's trying to fix everything around him, and he can't. Logan won't leave him alone and isn't any help. And every time he gets one thing done, Storm asks him to do 3 more things. Anyway, Logan storms off, runs into Jean Grey in the hallway. I'm still a little weirded out by their whole relationship. This whole old man Logan, teenage Jean Grey situation that's going on. Is it not just a little weird?
It depends. As we discussed previously, it depends on who's writing it. In the writer of the Old Man Logan book, it's a platonic father-daughter relationship. Whoever's writing this book, and I don't have the notes in front of me because you were assigned to review it, and I don't do notes. Whoever wrote this book, it's a slightly overtone sexual relationship, which is kind of weird.
Well, Jeff Lemire is also writing Old Man Logan. I don't
understand. I mean, because she's barely like 18,
16.
if at all 18.
Yeah, she's like 16.
He's 150 at this point.
Yeah, 200 maybe.
I really don't even know. Somewhere between 100 and 200. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, way too old for this. Meanwhile, we're back with Kurt and Bobby looking for Colossus. Yeah. They're in Egypt trying to search for members of Clan Akaba and Colossus, and they stumble upon something interesting. I won't spoil the last page for you, but I don't know, man. This story's got me intrigued.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty decent book.
Yeah.
Those were the only X-Men books that we had. Then moving on to our only Avengers book, which was New Avengers number 15. This is another book that I was surprised by. Well, I won't say surprised. I've enjoyed this one from the get-go. I was just kind of, I don't know. They lost me with that story where they were fighting the big giant lizard monster thing for a while, and now they've gotten back into it. Anyway, if you remember, what's his name? Evil Reed Richards from the other universe. The Maker.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought that was a rhetorical question. Yes,
No.
Of course I do.
Anyway, the Maker is attacking Avengers base, and at the last panel of the last issue, Warlock steps in and shows up as some backup. So in this one, Warlock saves the day. Robert DaCosta wears him like Iron Man armor, which is really cool. So it turns out S.H.I.E.L.D. targeted the wrong AIM facility. They thought they were going to be, there's like this 3-way fight going on between the Avengers and AIM and S.H.I.E.L.D. versus the Avengers.
Well, I think Bobby intentionally gave them the coordinates of the wrong AIM facility.
Right. That's the thing, is he gave them the wrong information so that they would bomb the Maker's headquarters.
Right.
So they blow up the Whisper base, which is what the Maker's calling his group or whatever. And that takes Omniticon.
Don't ask me, man.
Yeah, the big computer. It takes the big computer offline and distracts the Maker enough to give the Avengers an upper hand. Then there's some rehashing of stuff from an earlier issue, which is basically, here's what happened. Okay, now here's how Robert DaCosta was manipulating the situation the whole time. Then you've got Songbird wrapping things up on the helicarrier, explaining how the listening devices worked. The two white tigers are fighting. One of them destroys the white tiger amulet and destroys all its power. And Pod's dead.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the end of the issue.
Yeah, this was...
It was okay.
I would give it a 4 out of 5. One of these nights, I'm going to, one of these days, one of these recording sessions, I'm going to lose my mind and just go on a rant about what I hate about these issues and spoil what I know about the future. And it's just going to be bad for everyone. And we're going to have warned you at the top. There's a disclaimer. So when it happens, you've been warned. Okay? That we discuss spoilers. And when I really lose my mind, you've been warned. So there you go.
All righty.
Yeah. Just saying. Just saying.
Hey man, I got you. I'm hearing you.
Yeah. Because I try not to, but it's one of these days it's going to happen.
Yeah. I particularly enjoyed Robert DaCosta wearing Warlock-like Iron Man armor.
That was pretty cool.
That was my favorite part.
It's been a long time since we've seen Warlock. I'd have to look at Wikipedia to see the last time he was in an issue that I saw. So it was good seeing him.
Well, it's kind of what they do with him these days is he just shows up and like helps out for a minute and then he's gone. I really like Warlock. He's one of the few New Mutants that I really enjoyed. And I kind of wish we saw more of him. I understand why you don't, because he's kind of a silly character, but I think they made good use of him in this issue. And if they did more stuff like this, if they made him kind of like you could make him like K2SO in Star Wars. He's the robot who has funny one-liners and also handles all the technical stuff.
Well, I forget who was, dude. I was going to say a few years ago, a couple of decades ago, somebody was writing him, and he was like that. He had funny one-liners, and I think Bill Skinwitz was drawing him, and it was very creative drawing, and that's how it was used, and it was good, and it hasn't been that way since.
Yeah, you had so many mutants at one point that you had too many to do anything with, and of course they depowered a bunch of them in with the No More Mutants thing. But even still, like we'll talk about in Hellcat later, you got Jubilee still around, and you got all the other New Mutants and a bunch in Dazzler still around, and you've got a bunch of semi-useless X-Men who you could do something with, but you just don't because they're kind of useless.
Somewhere there's three people who have a sentimental attachment to them, so they keep them around.
Right. Yeah. And like I said earlier, Warlock can be used in an interesting way. I just don't think it happens enough. Whereas with Jubilee, I don't know, like you made her a vampire and she's still not entertaining. You just keep her around for nostalgic purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, why don't you tell me about this Uncanny Inhumans annual that you love so much?
Oh, this is going to be very brief. They take Grid, who is one of the is like Jubilee, one of the Inhumans that we're keeping around for reasons I don't know, back to India. There's another Inhuman who has the infamous power of being made of wood. By the way, if you're made of wood, how do you beat him? You throw him in a fire. So that's what they did, and that's how the story ends. There you go. Yeah. I understand at some point you have to provide backstory for some of these characters, but give me a backstory on Gorgon or Crystal or somebody I care about. Don't give me a backstory on Grid. And I think he's going to see in India, so we're never going to see him again. Do what?
You introduced him what 10 issues ago, and you're giving us
Yeah,
like I don't care.
I don't. I don't. It was just, and it wasn't. I it's like half a
So
finger. It's like half a finger. Okay,
yeah,
it's not even a knuckle. All right, it's
yeah,
nothing.
half a thumb up.
We wasted too much time talking about it already.
Well, here's a question.
Yes.
The problem I've had with this Uncanny Inhumans book from the get go is it feels like they're trying to shoehorn in a bunch of new Inhuman characters to kind of flesh out the royal family. And I just don't understand why they're doing that. And I don't care about any
you
of these
you have
characters.
you have the royal family, which is what they are. Gorgon, Triton,
Medusa,
Medusa,
Triton, yeah,
Black Bolt.
Crystal,
Okay,
right,
Crystal,
yeah,
the royal
Lockjaw.
family. Then you have the rest of the Inhumans, of which there's hundreds, possibly thousands.
Sure.
I get this, and you want to add to this cast. I understand, but to give me a whole annual, a whole 20 something, 30 page something
It was like
book
25 pages.
that's written this badly. And it's not that it's written badly. It's just, I just don't care.
Yeah, it's a one-off story that will never. And what they did was they established a villain, like, and that's what they do a lot with these annuals. But, dude, he's a crappy villain.
Dude, just send, the Human Torch is just going to throw one fireball at him. He's going to catch on fire.
Yeah, boom. Yeah,
Boom, done.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's a former Bollywood star turned into a tree.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's
covered in varnish.
yeah, if that's the best,
You know,
if that's the best you got, then
one match, he's gone.
yeah. Moving on. Why don't you tell us about Captain America, Steve Rogers?
This Captain America Steve Rogers #4 is a transition book because in the first 2 or 3 issues, they laid the foundation that Steve Rogers is his Hydra agent. And what I believe they're doing here, and this thing is 31 pages. 30,
Yeah, it was long.
No, it's 33 pages, actually. They're transitioning to where they're going with this. And what they're doing is establishing, and I believe we discussed this with issue 2 or 3, that they're establishing Steve Rogers as a Hydra hero. Okay. Yes, he's going to be a Hydra agent, but he's going to be a hero. So we begin back in the 20s or 30s where his mom hasn't shown up to meetings because she knows they killed Steve's father, and Steve's not happy about it. At the same time, he's talking to Dr. Selvig, trying to convince him that he needs Dr. Selvig to help him fight the Red Skull. We found out how he got the lab that they're in, which is he fought the Red Ghost, which is an old Captain America Iron Man villain. And instead of, the Red Ghost figures, he's going to do the same thing he always does, which is take him to jail, and doesn't quite work out that way because Cap brutally murders him this time.
Yeah.
We go on to what will eventually become the trial of Maria Hill. And that's going to be interesting as we go on. That'll be very interesting as we go on. Because I think that's going to unfold in this. I'm pretty sure that's going to unfold in this series, which is Maria Hill being tried for everything she's done. Steve continues explaining to Dr. Selvig everything he's had to do to make this happen. I'm sorry, not happy. Happen. Maybe he is happy about it. And I think that's about it. Why did we get this flash to this monster at one point? I don't really understand this. Anyway, because we get this flashback to Quasar and Wendell, which I don't really understand where they fit in all this. Anyway, and then we wind up with Dr. Selvig and Captain America discussing the fact they're going after the Red Skull.
Yeah.
And it's a long way around there, but that's what they're going after. They're going to bring him down.
Yeah, man. It was okay. I felt like it was a lot of dialogue.
There was a lot of dialogue. Just
Yeah, I feel like you got 30 whatever pages, 32 pages or whatever, and it was a whole lot of talking about a lot of talking and not a lot of action. And even then, like you had a bunch of flashbacks and kind of other characters and like, I feel like
yeah,
not a whole lot got done for 32 pages.
yeah. I mean, this was a lot of. You really hope in the next couple of issues that we're going to get a lot, that they laid the groundwork for a lot of action. That's what I'm hoping here.
Yeah, and I'm hoping this is one of those issues where it's like, hey, we've got to do some setup so that we can do other things in a couple of issues.
Yeah, that's what you're hoping.
Because if the story continues this direction, where it's just a lot of Captain America talking to the Red Skull and then talking to Eric Selvig, and then a flashback to another time, and then some of the other characters. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't. I'm with you. This thing needs to go somewhere.
Yeah, and maybe this is, like I said, maybe this is one of those issues where they've just got to lay some groundwork and then they can get somewhere. But if things continue in this manner, I'm going to get real bored real quick.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. But I've got faith. I'm actually, people have really kind of poo-pooed on this idea of Steve Rogers being a Hydra agent, and I get it. But I feel like you could tell a good story with this premise. So we'll see what they can do. I've got faith in them.
Right.
Nighthawk what is this, number 4?
4.
Really? I thought we'd had more issues in this. Okay.
No, and we're not going to have many more issues.
Oh, well, that's a bummer. So Officer Burrell is tailing this rogue cop, and he's trying to figure out how this cop is connected to this group, the True Patriots, and how they're connected to all the guns that are coming into the city, and how it's related to the violence happening in Chicago. By the way, so they're working with this group, the True Patriots, who are basically just redneck white supremacists with drug and gun connections. Are these the same guys that the Punisher's dealing with in his book?
I thought you were going to ask if they work for Steve Bannon.
Well, no, of course they work for Steve Bannon.
Oh, okay.
But
anyway,
I think they're the same group.
Could be.
I'd have to go back and look at the other Punisher issues, but I think they're the same. I think they're the True Patriots too.
Okay.
I don't know. It'd just be neat to see Nighthawk and Punisher run into each other and team up, because they're similar heroes. Meanwhile, Chicago has erupted in violence after a police officer was acquitted after killing a black teenager. Riots and looting and fires. And some of these True Patriots decide to just take justice into their own hands and declare open season on African American people in the streets, which doesn't go well with Nighthawk. So he gets busy busting skulls of these rednecks, and that includes busting up a cop who shows up on the scene. Meanwhile, the Revelator's been watching this whole thing unfold. Nighthawk finds him and pursues him, but it turns out it was a trap. The Revelator loaded up an ambulance with a bunch of explosives and is driving this ambulance towards a large group of police. Nighthawk gets caught in the blast, knocked unconscious, and Revelator takes him hostage.
Okay, if I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to be real honest here. If I seem distracted, it's because I'm getting updates from my wife on my daughter in the hospital. So
yeah, no, it's fine. I understand.
Okay. And that was actually pretty interesting, because I thought the Revelator was going after someone else there at the end, and then you find out he's going after Nighthawk, and I thought he was going after one of the policemen, and I don't understand why he was going after Nighthawk.
Well, Nighthawk is trying to get to him. So if he can take out Nighthawk, he can continue to do what he wants to do.
By the way, I got a version of John the Revelator by Government Mule live. Dude, that thing's good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
I bet. It's Government Mule. They're good.
Yeah.
So tell me about this International Iron Man #6. And
You know,
once you tell me about it, I'll tell you how I felt about it.
you know, it's no secret to anyone that Tony Stark goes on hiatus at the end of Civil War and other people pick up the mantle of Iron Man. So if Tony Stark, for whatever reason, isn't around and other people pick up the Iron Man mantle, at least for a short period of time, why do I get a whole issue of his rock star mom and dad?
That's been my whole question about this whole series. And kind of a larger question as a whole. Like, Marvel keeps messing with Tony Stark's origin story, particularly his parentage.
I'll recap in about 6 sentences.
Okay.
His mom is a B-list singer. The Shield, I was going to say the CIA. Shield comes to her. Actually, Vanessa, Nick Fury's old lady, comes to her and says, "Hey, we'll make you a rock star. The catch is you got to work for us and transport items around the world while you're touring." She says, "Fine." Along the way, she meets Tony's father and hooks up with Tony's father, gets pregnant, and there you got a baby Stark. There you go. And which is fine, which is fine, but we spend a whole issue seeing this. Nothing with Iron Man, nothing with Tony Stark. And I don't understand. I just really?
Well, I still don't understand why any of it's relevant.
I don't either. That's the point. I'm just like,
this whole, and we're on what, issue #6, the whole International Iron Man book has been about Tony finding out who his parents are, who his real parents are.
And dude, Tony ain't going to be around at the end of Civil War. I mean, he's not going to die, okay?
Right, but he
ain't going to be around.
He's indisposed. And well, the thing is, to me, they're changing who his parents are in this series. They did it 3 or 4 years ago, where you had this whole thing. He was some genetically modified, altered kid to be a super genius, and I don't understand what it has to do with the price of tea in China. What does the circumstances of Tony Stark's birth have to do with anything?
I don't know, man.
They changed it a few years ago, and it carried no weight whatsoever. They told the story, and nothing. It was of no consequence. It was interesting, but it ultimately didn't affect the character at all. They're doing it again, and not only is Tony Stark not going to be around for a minute, it doesn't affect the outcome of the character, and also, unless his mother is, Agatha Harkness or Steve Rogers' mom, also, I don't care. Like when they revealed to us it was some B-list singer, songwriter, producer, I totally lost interest. I was like, okay, don't care. I don't know. I don't understand what this has to do with anything. To me, it's why? Why are you telling the story? You could be telling other stories.
Dude, I'm with you. I do not understand it. When I saw the cover and I saw International Iron Man, I thought we were going to get some kind of great international, spy thing. And instead,
right, I wanted like espionage and like Tony running around saving the world.
Me too. And instead, you get this. I'm tempted to call it a pile of crap. It's slightly above that, but I don't understand the purpose of it.
Well, even the first 4 issues were not bad when you had this whole thing going on with the other spy lady that he was involved with. That was at least interesting. But once you got the reveal, I don't care anymore. And it sucks because this is Brian Michael Bendis, who's usually really good at writing Iron Man. And you have some of the best art with Alex Maleev, and it feels like a wasted effort.
I know. Dude, I got nothing.
Yeah, dude, I don't. Whatever, man. If you wanna ruin Iron Man, go ahead. He's not even gonna be around in a little while anyway. On to something completely different.
Tell you what,
Patsy-
while I'm on a roll, let me get
Okay.
Drax number 10.
Okay.
While I'm talking about it, open up Drax number 10 to page number 4.
Okay.
Okay. They were making progress. Tell me when you get there. They were making progress with Drax number. This book was progressively getting better. Phil Brooks, aka CM Punk, who Triple H punked out last night on Monday Night Raw, was pun intended, was getting better as a writer. Okay, and I thought he's getting better, man. This thing's getting better. I got hope for him. I'm buying in. This book's getting better. The action's better. The characters are better. There's hope for him. You know, I can see him getting better. I hear the grunts. As if I'm not making this up, this is Terex the Titan. Okay, Terex the Titan and Fing Fang Foom sitting there in overalls on the Fing Fang farm. All right, working on a farm, sitting there singing and happily being farmers, not fighting anymore. Okay, Terex the Terrible. Terex, who takes his axe and cuts planets in half, isn't fighting anymore and is just happy being a farmer with a giant dragon who, by the way, is still on Earth eating Wolverine in X-23. Okay, that's what we have in the beginning of this issue, and it's all downhill from here.
Dude, what?
I'm not even going to discuss it anymore. Okay, it's dragons fighting and not making any sense. And there's a baby dragon that they're trying to corrupt, and it's Fing Fang Foom's egg, and Fing Fang Foom has to go save it. But Fing Fang Foom has sworn to peace and doesn't want to fight anymore because the dragons are naturally peaceful, and it's just a pile of crap.
Also, there's purple chickens.
Dude.
And I don't understand the purple chickens.
Terex the Titan. Galactus's most evil herald ever, sitting there on a farm in overalls, farming on the Fing Fang farm. I wish I had made that up.
Like, I kind of want to throw my phone across the room having looked at this.
Dude, there's a reason I sent you a text and said, don't read it. Just don't.
And I didn't. I took you to heart. I was like, fine, I won't read it.
Dude,
and I'm glad I didn't.
Dude, just if anybody out there, if you haven't read it, stop reading the book. Just don't read Drax anymore. Just don't.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to bail on this one.
Dude.
I think I'm gonna have to call it a day with the Drax book.
It was so bad, man. And they had developed some of those characters, and they were assassins, and it was getting better, and I had hope for it. And I was literally looking forward to the book. I was literally looking forward to this issue.
Yeah, I mean, it had been improving.
Yes. And dude, this issue, I got to that page and I was like, are you kidding me? This is some kind of joke.
Yeah, that sucks.
Dude, man.
I mean, and last time we saw everybody, they were in space, and all of a sudden they're on a farm somewhere.
Well, they're on a farm. Everybody else is fighting on that planet.
Dude, what a piece of crap.
Yeah, it's bad, man. It's just bad.
Yeah. Now for something completely different, Patsy Walker, Hellcat number 9.
Put me back in a good mood, man.
This was okay.
Bring us up.
The book opens with Damian Hellstrom and Hetty Wolf on a date. And if you don't, if you don't understand the context there, Damien Hellstrom used to be married to Patsy Walker, and Hetty Wolf is the lady who's making Patsy Walker's life a living hell. So meanwhile, back at Jennifer Walters' office, Patsy's in the office meeting with her financial advisor. Turns out they're up to their neck in debt and may lose the building. They're kind of, if you remember, they're trying to take on Jen's cases while Jen's in a coma. So it's time for a coffee break with Jubilee, who's still a vampire. Patsy Walker has a coffee mug that says Magneto was old, which I think is funny. Another scene with Hetty meeting another one of Patsy's ex-husbands. So back to Patsy, Jubilee decides to take the whole crew out for karaoke. They're having a good time when Patsy gets attacked by both of her ex-husbands. And apparently Hetty's been trying to turn them against her for various reasons and trying to take her down. Where Damien Hellstrom transports her to a different dimension where Jennifer Walters is there waiting for her. If you remember, Jennifer Walters is in a coma, so I don't know how she's in this alternate dimension.
Is that an alternate dimension, or is it like a dream, or?
I don't know. Damien Hellstrom uses some sort of voodoo to transport her somewhere. It's all very strange.
Okay. I didn't really understand how that happened either.
Yeah, and you got to understand this Hellcat book is not it's not meant to be super serious. It's meant to be silly. So it is what it is, man. Whatever.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Then you have Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur number 10, which I actually enjoyed. In the previous issue, Moon Girl and Kid Kree got in a fight, which Miss Marvel promptly broke up. So she's there with them, gives them a kind of a stern talking to about what it is to be a young superhero. Of course, Kid Creed with his bad attitude just pops off and leaves. You've got a little scene with Kid Creed's parents talking about, hey, you need to go find your son because he's missing, and we're sitting here having dinner, and you don't seem to give a rat's behind about the fact that your son's gone missing.
That's actually pretty funny because there's a series of panels where he's going to ignore his wife, and the panels just sit there, keep waiting as he finally says, I think I'll go looking for my son.
Yeah, they're sitting there having dinner, and he's just stuffing his face, and she's just looking at him with that look.
I forget if that's 6 or 8 panels, but anybody who's married has been there in that situation.
Oh, yeah. Anybody who's been in a relationship for any significant amount of time or married knows that look.
Yeah.
So then we're back on Earth with Miss Marvel and Moon Girl, and Moon Girl's kind of fangirling out about Miss Marvel, and she wants to ask her all these questions, and Miss Marvel's kind of giving her a talk about, how to use your powers responsibly, and Miss Marvel kind of gets Moon Girl, whereas nobody else really understands that, she's really smart and has things to say and can do things. And before she goes, Miss Marvel hands her an Avengers communicator, and of course, immediately Moon Girl's like, holy crap, do you know what this is? And starts playing with it immediately. And Miss Marvel's like, hey, that can do all kinds of things. And then she's like, well, I guess you figured that out. And then she leaves. Miss Marvel leaves. And I don't know. I kind of enjoyed the interaction between Moon Girl and Miss Marvel.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. I thought it was good. Yeah, I didn't know. I wasn't aware that Miss Marvel was an Inhuman.
Yeah.
I just recently started reading the book. Actually, I just started reading it with this series. And I guess Miss Marvel is on what, issue 10 or 11?
Something like that.
And this is the first time I've read it, and I didn't realize she was an Inhuman.
Yeah, she got hit by the Terrigen Mists and got her whatever her powers are.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yep. So then you got a short scene where Lunella and what's his name is they're in class. And what's funny is I think that the boy who's Kid Kree, whose name I can't remember.
Marvin?
Maybe Marvin. Not. Yeah, Marvin, it is. Marvin has figured out that she's Moon Girl, but she hasn't figured out that he is Kid Kree. So he keeps trying to be her friend, and she just keeps blowing him off. You got an interesting little scene where Kid Kree's kind of sitting on a rooftop, eating some Chinese food and hanging out, trying to figure out what he's doing here. And if the last panel is any indication, I think he's trying to make friends and team up with Miss Marvel. I'm not really sure. And like his whole reason for coming to Earth was to kill her, but now I think he's changed his mind a little bit.
You said teaming up with Miss Marvel or teaming up with Moon Girl?
Or sorry, teaming up with Moon Girl.
That's okay. You confused me because it's been a while since I read the book.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but I like it.
No, don't apologize. We read 15 or 20 books a week, and it's the days after we read them that we do the podcast, and I get confused.
Oh, no, I just meant that, the book itself it's for kids, but I'm enjoying it just fine.
Yeah, I did enjoy this issue. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And
Venom.
There's been several issues of this series that I've really not enjoyed. That's not what I wanted to say. Not enjoyed, and I enjoyed this one. It was good.
Yeah, it is slowly continuing to improve, and they're fleshing out the characters and developing them. And I really think Lunella is going to be a neat character one day.
Yeah, I think so.
You give her a few years and she'll be really interesting. I think you could put together like an Avengers team with a bunch of the young kids. You put Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur there. You put Kid Kree on it. You have Richard Franklin show up for some reason. Maybe the whole thing's led by Miss Marvel.
Called the Champions?
Well, no, that they're a little older, but yeah.
Actually, I think Moon Girl does wind up joining the Champions.
Actually, I think you're right. Now that I think about it, I think she is on the Champions, which is like the teenage Avengers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Never mind.
Okay.
I've already yelled one spoiler. I was going to yell another.
Go ahead and tell us about Venom Space Knight number 11.
It's a fairly straightforward book. Venom is back on Earth because the Guardians of the Galaxy have been drawn in the Civil War, so he's kind of chilling after the first fight, and goes and visits his mom, which is kind of awkward. But they have a
nice
Flash Thompson and his mom have a nice little talk. Yeah, nice little talk, nice little get together. And after that, he just kind of out chilling, and Peter Parker comes to see him as Spider-Man, not knowing that Venom and let's rephrase that. Not knowing that Flash Thompson has reformed Venom, reformed as in a paroled, sentenced point of view, as you would a prisoner, has reformed Venom into a hero. So he attacks Venom, thinking that he needs to capture him, and Flash and Venom both try to communicate with him, and it doesn't go very well. And the more he attacks and agitates Venom, both with sonic and light sources, the more agitated Venom becomes, and the more Flash Thompson loses control of him until they're at the end. Peter Parker / Spider-Man makes a mistake of telling him that at one time he was a host, and Venom says, "Fine, you were a host. How about being a host again?" And that's how the issue ends. And it doesn't really go well for Peter Parker.
No. Does anything ever go well for Peter Parker? If it does, it's not for long.
Yeah. So it was a pretty entertaining story. It was a very good fight issue between Spider-Man and Venom, which we haven't seen in a while.
It was kind of a filler issue without feeling like it. It felt like a satisfying filler issue. It was kind of, hey, we're going to break away from the main story a little bit. Flash is going to go do his own thing for a minute. Oh, he runs afoul of Spider-Man. They have a fight. Oh, look, this is classic Venom Spider-Man. It was all right.
Yeah, but it was, I don't know. There was a lot of fighting to be a filler issue.
Well, yeah, that was the filler.
Yeah, I don't know.
they didn't advance the main story at all, really.
I think by angering Venom, they did.
Well, maybe. We'll see. We'll see in number 12.
Okay.
Tell me about Deadpool number 17.
Did you read this?
No.
This was entertaining. And I'm not quite sure what to make of it. I'm trying to remember the Jennifer Garner, I think it was Jennifer Garner, Steve Carell's movie a few years ago. It was Somebody's Very, Very Bad Day. This issue could be entitled Deadpool's Very, Very Bad Day. If you remember, at the end of last issue, he and the Mercs for Money are locked in a time-controlled vault. And as the vault opens, they're all fighting. They're fighting each other. They're fighting Deadpool. They're just fighting. So the vault opens, and they spill out fighting. And the fighting continues with each other, with the bank guards, eventually with the police. It just continues to escalate until S.H.I.E.L.D. gets there, and they fight with S.H.I.E.L.D., and then eventually S.H.I.E.L.D. arrests them, and the arresting S.H.I.E.L.D. agent happens to be Deadpool's ex-wife, which doesn't go well for him. It's pretty entertaining. Finally, S.H.I.E.L.D. they get off, and the only way they get off is the Mercs convincing Deadpool that he has to convince them that all of this was for Avengers business. So Deadpool goes before the judge and lies and convinces the judge it was for Avengers business, which Deadpool isn't happy about, but hey, it gets them all off. So then he decides to go see his daughter and his ex-wife, and his ex-wife isn't very happy with him, so she beats him up. And being his ex-wife, he isn't very happy. So then he decides to go see his current wife and finds, I think that's Wolfman, in bed with his wife. And if you ever wanted to see Deadpool in a Speedo, this would be your issue.
Man,
and then,
why did I not read this? Oh,
yeah. And then Deadpool gets a giant shotgun and begins to blow Wolfman's head off, and that's how the issue ends. Yeah. It's not the best day for Deadpool.
Yeah, clearly not.
Yeah, and then the next issue shows people in line to continue beating on Deadpool. So apparently today is going to continue.
That's really when Deadpool's best is when he's the one just getting kind of crapped on.
Yeah.
When you see the tragedy of the character, that's when, in my opinion, Deadpool's really that's when the Deadpool writing is really good.
Well, he gets crapped on a lot in this issue, so it must be pretty good.
Yeah. Then we have Unbeatable Squirrel Girl.
It was a pretty good issue. It was entertaining. I mean, because they advanced that Mercs for Money storyline, which needed to go somewhere. They're on 17 here. They need to do something with that, and they are. And yeah, it went somewhere this issue, and I'm glad for it. Squirrel Girl.
Yeah, Unbeatable Squirrel Girl number 11, which might be my favorite book this week. So Squirrel Girl's just out trying to have some falafel when Doc Ock walks by, and she decides to get in a fight with him while discussing computer programming. And you might say, wait a minute, isn't Doc Ock in a robot body these days? Yes. And it turns out that this whole thing has been a dream, or more to the fact, it has been a nightmare. This is where Nightmare shows up and says, I'm going to steal your sanity, Squirrel Girl. Because that's what Nightmare does. So Doreen gets into this. She keeps trying to thwart Nightmare's attempt to steal her sanity by using computer assembly language. And
you have to talk about the fight with Count Nefaria.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
So Nightmare summons Count Nefaria, and just before they start fighting, she starts talking about how she can count up to 31 on one hand. using binary. And there's a whole lesson on how to teach or how to count in binary to up to like 31 or 32 on one hand. And I mean, it's 3 or 4 pages where they teach you how to do this. And
it's the captions at the bottom are teaching you how to do it.
Yeah. Which, by the way, this was something I was aware of this. That's something my geometry teacher taught me how to do back in like 10th grade. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh, cool. And you know, I just think it's fun that you can read a comic book and learn something. So the way she defeats Count Nefaria is by teaching him to count, and he just wanders off counting with his hands. I thought it was really funny because and there's a bunch of jokes about being a count who is obsessed with counting, and yeah, it was real funny. So since that didn't work, Nightmare turns himself into Venom and attacks Squirrel Girl. She transports herself to a different dream where she's on her college campus. She decides to use her computer science logic to defeat Nightmare, as his powers are based in sorcery, and that is by definition illogical. Eventually, she comes up with a plan involving squirrels and algorithms to defeat Nightmare. We learn about computational control flow statements and how to count in binary, all from a comic book. Hooray.
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 Yeah, it was, dude. That book was pretty funny.
It was really good. It was really good. It's and I keep saying this about Squirrel Girl. When you give really creative writers the freedom to kind of do whatever they want, which is what they're doing with Squirrel Girl, they're doing some really fun stuff. Like at one, and some of it's just visual gags. Like at one point, she's on her college campus, and the whole nightmare is she's taking a final exam for a class she's never been to. And she's like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And she's like, well, I'll just go to the dean's office and tell him to drop the course because I've never attended the class or turned in any work. And clearly it was a mistake. So she walks into the dean's office, and it's Craven the Hunter. Craven the Hunter is the dean of the school. And understand, this is all a dream. So that kind of wacky dream stuff is happening all over the place. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
It was good.
Yeah. That was the last Marvel book that we've got. Moving on to Star Wars number 22. We open with a giant space battle over a Star Destroyer. The Millennium Falcon blasts a hole in a strategic site on the hull of the ship. This allows for the smaller X-Wing fighters to penetrate it and destroy the reactor core that's powering the destroyer and blow it up. By the way, the proton bombs that they're using to blow a hole in the ship, those same bombs they're the same ones that were being stolen by the Phoenix Squadron from Star Wars Rebels in a recent episode this past season.
Did you know you can buy a Lego model of that Star Destroyer for $975?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm not surprised.
$975. Anyway.
Yep. So after a couple misfires from the other pilots, Luke goes in for the kill. And it's the Death Star all over again. Except Luke, this time Luke decides to enter the passage itself and fly his X-Wing fighter straight into the reactor. So Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon crew fly the Falcon onto the destroyer, presumably to rescue Luke. And that's when the Star Destroyer explodes in a huge ball of fire. 1 week later, there's an Imperial scout crew out running patrols in the area of all the wreckage, seeing what they can salvage. And they get shot down by what's left of the Star Destroyer. Turns out the plan the entire time was to get Luke, Han, and Leia on board and steal the Star Destroyer to use it against the Empire. So they've spent the last week trying to repair the reactor to get the thing running, and the plan is to use it against the Empire somehow. That's assuming Han and Chewie can get the thing running again.
How many people did they smuggle on board?
It was Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Leia, Chewie, Han Solo's wife, who's not his wife. I forget her name. And like a small skeleton crew. Basically, however many they could fit in the Millennium Falcon, which isn't a ton. So the whole issue is they're trying to repair the reactor core and also running a huge Star Destroyer on like a crew of 30 people. And understand that there's normally, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people on board this ship. So anyway, the Star Wars book continues to be really good. Jason Aaron continues to do really good work here. And I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm really hoping we see that Stormtrooper group again that we saw in issue number 21. I'm hoping that was an introduction so that we run into them again, because those guys were cool.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And with that, I'm going to go ahead and say that Squirrel Girl is my favorite book this week.
200 is how many people they have on the ship.
200. Okay.
So how did they get 200 people on the ship?
I assume smuggling them in through the Millennium Falcon.
How did they get 200 people on the Millennium Falcon?
Or after the Star Destroyer exploded, somewhere in that time frame, they send a shuttle up with a bunch of people. I don't know.
Okay.
No idea. What was your favorite book this week, Pat?
I want to know how to get 200 people on the ship. I'm stalling for time. Can I pass?
Sure.
No, Deadpool 17.
Okay. Are you sure it wasn't Uncanny Inhumans Annual?
Oh, I'm positive.
I mean, that had some good stuff in it. All right.
That's funny. That's funny. I'd pick Drax before I picked the Uncanny Inhumans Annual. That thing was bad, man. It was bad, man.
Yeah. What's our classic read this week?
Supervillain Team Up, because I was reading it trying to figure out where it fit. One of the first books that Marvel came out with was a Submariner book. It was a Namor book, and it was one of those things that was I forget, it was Strange Tales or something like that, and it spun off into the Submariner book. Lasted 75 issues, and when it ended, it went into Supervillain Team Up.
Yeah,
and it was actually. And if you read this, you're going to be confused because you think you're picking up with the ongoing story, and you kind of are, because you got to start with Giant Size Supervillain Team Up number 1, Giant Size Supervillain Team Up number 2, then Supervillain Team Up number 1, which came out this week, and then you get all 16, 17 issues. It's really good story because it was the first comic that Marvel did that was actually based around villains. It's not based around a hero trying to do something. Mm-hmm. It's based around the Submariner, Doctor Doom, the Red Skull, Magneto trying to take over the world. I mean, it's literally based around villains trying to do things. And it was, at the time, it was a pretty novel concept, and it's a fairly entertaining read. Now, it's 70s writing, it's 70s art, so you got to take it for what it is. But it was a good read at the time. It was a novel concept at the time, and it's a good story.
Cool, dude. And what are the numbers there? Supervillain Team Up number what now?
Giant Size 1 and 2, and then Supervillain Team Up 1 through 17, I believe.
That's cool.
Yeah, 19 issues. All in all, it's good.
Good deal. And those were the ones that like you kind of read as a kid that you really remember, right?
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. These things were so hard to find because you didn't have comic book stores. You just
had newsstands.
You just had newsstands. So you literally had spinner racks. Mm-hmm. And when I look at these, they came out bi-monthly. Now that's not bi as in every 2 weeks. That's bi as in every other month. So if you look at the ship dates, they came out on the 10th every 2 months.
Mhm.
Now as an adult, okay, that's easy to say. Oh, I got to go to the comic book store. I got to go to the comic book store tomorrow to pick up IVX number 6. I know that as an adult. As a kid, as a 10-year-old trying to keep up with the fact I got to go to the store on the 10th every other month, that's nearly impossible. Not only that, I got to get to the spinner rack where there's going to be 2 issues and get there before somebody else buys those 2 issues is nearly impossible to do. And hope that the guy putting out the magazines actually puts 2 of those magazines on that rack and doesn't forget to put them out and puts them out somewhere else.
Right. And I mean, 2 months to a 9 or a 10-year-old is forever.
Dude, it's forever. So because it's easy if the Avengers come out every month or Fantastic Four come out every month and there's like 10 copies of it, or a copy at every store. Okay, that's easy. But when it's like Supervillain Team Up and there's only gonna be 1 or 2 copies and it's only every 2 months, it's hard to find the copy and it's hard to find the issues. And that's how the X-Men started out. And that's why those original copies of the Uncanny X-Men, giant size X-Men number 1, 94, 95, 96, 97 are so rare is because they were coming out every 2 months. The print run was so little that they're hard to find, man. They were hard to find on the spinner racks and they're hard to find in store because it was a short print run and they were just rare, man. They're just, dude. They were coming out bi-monthly, and it was a short print run. And as they were getting popular, they were being snatched up so quick. If you weren't there today, it hit the stand, man. You didn't get it.
Yeah, which is why you have, like you said, those older issues are so rare because there's fewer of them that ever existed. Whereas you look at comic books today, and they're printing them in the tens of thousands. And people collecting today's comic books they're just not going to be worth what those are.
Yeah, and here's the best part is even today, when you see a magazine in the store, if it's not sold, they rip the cover off of it and send it back to the publisher. Yeah, and that's the way comic books are treated. If it didn't sell, you rip the cover off of it, send it back to Marvel or DC, and you get your money back. So when a comic book didn't sell, rip the cover off, send it back. And that's why Diamond and the direct dealers made so much money is because they bought them from the publishers. So once they bought it, they owned it. They weren't ripping it up. They were going to put it in the warehouse somewhere and hopefully sell it later. Which was a world of difference to the publishers because they knew it was sold and they were getting money for it. So when direct sales came up, dude, it was a gold mine for Marvel and DC.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's amazing. I do. You have the notes. I have all this stuff just off the top of my head. We're amazing. We are amazing.
It's why we make such a great supervillain team up.
There you go, man. There you go.
Well,
Triple H and Stone Cold. Here we are.
Yeah, that pretty much wraps us up for the evening. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. Please also visit our website,
www.6monthsbehind.com. Do you have any wisdom for us this week?
I do. I actually have a quote from Lou Holtz. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it.
There you go.
Fantastic. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.